of quite a distinction, teaching at a couple of places, Montclair and Rutgers as well, advising Greg Schiano on how he can cover a couple of point spreads, and also performing on Scripps TV. Welcome back to the show. Well, one of our favorite and a member of the Degenerate Brethren, one of our favorites, the great Len Robbins joins us here on the program. Len, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. You got the intro wrong a little. It's not Rutgers, it's Rikers.
Well, appropriate, I guess. Especially with what's going on in the world today.
The time!
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
All right, pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Good to be with you here. Peel yourself off to Mad Monday. And boy, what a game it was. Boy, what a game last night. You could say that about a lot of the action that took place in the NFL. Never have so many games flip-flopped in the final seconds. You say that every week, it seems like. But absolutely ridiculous. I pulled one of those things yesterday. And how are you, Mike Lubie Lubitz? We welcome Lubie into the program here. And I think it's going to be your show today. I think it's going to be all Lubie all day. You had every situation that you love to talk about on Sports Talk First Radio and now video streaming, which is good because the people can see the sincerity in what you're saying. You're not just some phony radio guy screaming, and then after the rant is over, you look at the other guy and you wink and go, I bet they bought that. These schmucks, they don't know it. Kind of like being at a Trump rally at Madison Square Garden, something like that, where, after you walk off the stage, you go, I think they bought it.
Jesus.
Our man Sid Rosenberg was nuts at this thing. Did you see some of this stuff, Lubie, by any chance? A MAGA rally at Madison Square Garden. 20,000 people. They must have paid to go in there. Although I believe, I hate to say it, Lubie, and I don't want to get you started before we get into the Dolphin game, because that would be of far more importance than the presidential election. It's figuring out, when is Chris Greer going to get fired? Although, Greer didn't play the game, obviously, but wow, what a mess. When you look at teams that really would appear to have no shot, that nobody gave any thought to in terms of being representative, figure they were going to have a losing record this year. You look at some of the teams and what they were able to do. Example, Cleveland Browns with Jameis Winston at quarterback. And they pull off a win over the Ravens, who were on fire. They'd won 5 in a row. Now, we know the NFL stands for not for long. But and you have to do these things in streaks. Like lately, if you were looking at the Denver Broncos, they're a play every week. I don't know. And they clash now with the Ravens coming up this week, but they're getting 9.5 points. They've been dominating teams, and we've said this all season long. Automatic play against every week, no matter how many points they're getting, until they prove otherwise. The Carolina Panthers, they're awful.
Yep.
Even when they're good, they're awful. They played a good game by their standards yesterday and lost by 2 touchdowns to the Broncos. So make of that what you will if you're trying to cash tickets. But I pulled one of those things, Lubie. It's happened to me a few times in my life where I turned away from a game thinking it was absolutely over, and then was completely stunned when I saw the score later on a crawl or on some sports review show. Where did you see the end of the Bears-Commanders game by any chance?
It's funny. That's all I really watched. I had it on, and it seemed boring. And then I guess the Bears took the lead, so I was like, "Oh, interesting."
Took the lead with like 20 seconds ago,
and I stayed there just to see if they could even get a pass off, because they didn't do much of anything. I guess the Commanders in that 20-second span, like all they needed was a field goal, but they didn't go anywhere. So I'm just curious if they can even get like a Hail Mary off, because a lot of the time they don't even get it off. And I stayed to the end. I don't think they won.
I saw the Bears take the lead with 20 seconds to go. I said, they're not going to be able to do anything in 20 seconds. So, you could get in a field goal range. They could have sent it to overtime. That would have been less of a shocker. But no way I expected the Commanders to get a touchdown and win in regulation, especially when they had a ball. They were short of midfield with 6 seconds to go. To Tony Romo's credit, I think he was the guy doing the game. I want to say yes to that. Was he doing that game? Tony Romo with Jim Nantz?
Romo. I think it was Nantz and Romo, yeah.
And Romo says, hey, they have to throw a short out here. They have to do it within 3 seconds, and they get out of bounds. And sure enough, they did. They wouldn't have had time to spike the ball. I don't know why. I guess you want to protect the middle of the field there. You don't want a guy to break a run. And that would have been the final play if the guy had caught the ball in bounds or stayed in bounds. So they get the 10, 12 yards they needed to get them within range of a 65-yard aerial pass. That was short of the end zone. That's the weird part about that. It was short of the end zone, and in the scramble, I guess the defensive back who tipped the ball, whose name I don't remember, but probably because I never knew what it was. But he tips the ball, but he had been talking to the crowd like while the play was on, like going, "Hey, we beat your fucking ass, Commanders." As the Bears were on the road, and then he jumps back into the picture there, tips the ball, tips it up in the air, it goes behind him, and the Commanders end up with the victory. So that was just part of it. I mean, you don't need to jump off a cliff if you're wrong about an NFL game.
No.
And then, of course, the Dolphins were they up 9 in the fourth quarter of this game? I believe
Yes.
they had a fourth quarter lead of 9 points.
They did.
And they made Kyler Murray. He's standing back there like he's Johnny Unitas.
Yes.
They couldn't lay a glove on this kid for some reason. I know he can scramble. Does he not look like a Pop Warner quarterback
Yes, he's
standing
tiny.
in there? I mean, he's so small. It's incredible. Now,
Yep.
he acquitted himself very well. He did what the Arizona Cardinals needed to do in the end game there. And sure enough, they march it down. And in the final seconds, they actually win the game. All right. So I wanted to give you the platform here, Lubie, because what can you say? I don't really know how to dissect that. Everybody's moaning. I had this thought. There was a guy who had kind of a Raleigh Fingers mustache. Used to see at the track all the time, and various gambling emporiums. And if I saw him on a Sunday after a Dolphin loss, he would just look at me, and as he was leaving or passing by, he would just look at me and go, "Lovejoy." He loved Godfrey Lovejoy and Dolphin Crying Tale, which people stole the whole concept from us. I mean, you heard a lot of people. I don't want to mention any names here, but you would have people just all of a sudden they're doing Dolphin Crying Tale. You're like, where did you get that? That was our innovation, and it was also one of those things where I don't think Grace Blazer, the program director, who fortunately you missed when you went back to the old digs there. To cover the Mayo appearance on the Castronova show at iHeartRadio or iHeartMedia. I think they were upset when we used to pan the Dolphins with Dolphin Crying Tale. They thought it was like a stupid bit.
I mean, don't
But
lose.
how appropriate would it be? I mean, this would be the season for the towel to be out, would it not? I mean, never mind the white hankies there that Rick Weaver stole from the Steelers with the yellow handkerchief. And claimed it was an innovation of his own. See, that's the beauty of certain people. That they can just flat out lie in your face. Where have we seen that?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so go ahead, Louie. I've been blathering here for like 8 or 9 minutes. I haven't said anything of any significance. We all know the Dolphins lost, and they're now 2-5 on the season. Is that what it is? 2-5, 2-5.
Yes, 2-5. Yes,
not a favorable position. Not seemingly with the Buffalo Bills annihilating the Seattle Seahawks yesterday and looking clear-cut like they're the better team. In the AFC East, the Jets are a disaster, the Patriots a disaster, and the Dolphins right now a disaster. So what did you see, Lippy? Who needs to get canned? Who gets canned today?
It was just annoying because it's funny, of all their losses, and they've had tough ones and bad ones. I mean, a Titans team that they might have been better off with the starter in. They actually got the competent quarterback in Mason Rudolph. That was the end of that game. They ended up losing by 2 scores. Excuse me, in that game. That should have been the worst game, but this one's worse to me because all the things I've complained about, they didn't do. The offensive line played its best game by far. They ran the ball really well. They stayed with the run. They, in the red zone, actually ran the ball and scored twice. They threw the ball well. Tua had time. Tua ran and slid. Tua looked really good. No one was even worried about the concussion thing by the end of the game. The way Tua played, the way the offense played, which has been the biggest issue of the entire season, is the offensive line and the play calling. They put up almost 30 points in an NFL game at home. So the way the defense had been playing in past games, you would think, okay, that's a solid win. Well, the defense took the second half off. It's really like it's what a bad team does when neither side of the ball can, like, when they can't be on the same page. And it was so yesterday was they they get up 10, that stupid ass fumble leads to a safety. They, of course, that the Cardinals march down, score a touchdown. They score back to go up by 9 in the fourth quarter. So, but that was after, so they had given up a touchdown easily, but they're up 9 in the fourth quarter. Okay, Come on, defense. Your offense just scored for you. No, the Cardinals go down easier this time, make it a 2-point game. All right, offense, let's finish this game. You played well the entire game. Of course, the offense has its worst drive of the game, does nothing, and the Commanders get it back. And for the third straight drive, after 2.5 quarters of doing nothing offensively, really. I mean, they had one drive, but after they really hadn't done much the whole game. They went down the field again easily, used the entire clock, and kick a field goal and win. And it was like, I know McDaniel's the offensive guy, and this is not exactly his defense, but it's his team. And it's the same thing that I've said over and over again. I like the guy when he came in. I think he's different. A lot of media members are sort of defending him, so I feel like they like covering him. He gives you a lot. Even if you don't understand what the fuck he's saying, he talks a lot. And it's not even Norvellian cliches. He actually says real words. And he's different, and that's cool. He's not.
He seems to have like a good positive message.
He tries.
I like you would want to be this guy's friend, no? It's not even in the Wanstead sense where the guy was just a nice guy, but maybe miscast as a head coach in certain spots. He had his years where he had some success on different levels, college and pro. But McDaniel, I don't know. Is it the cliche? You don't want to use any cliches here, but you hear it a lot where guy might be a brilliant offensive coordinator, and yet part of being a brilliant offensive coordinator would be the ability to program your team to be able to finish off games.
Yes.
And it isn't always scoring. It's sometimes just sustaining a drive, getting a couple of first downs in those spots. And routinely, we've seen the Dolphins in the 2+ years that this guy's been the head coach fail in those spots, especially in games of larger magnitude than others. In big spots, that they always fail in that spot.
Yes.
And that would be a knock on Tua also. I mean, the good quarterbacks find a way to sustain these drives. Mahomes finds a way to grind it out one way or another. Tua seems capable of doing that, but he hasn't done it on not even a consistent basis. I don't think he's done it at all. If you've looked at the games where he has a chance to finish the game, doesn't even need a score, but just needs to eat some clock up and grind out a couple of first downs. Rarely do the Dolphins succeed in that position.
No, they're horrible in that. And look, and that's funny. That's where the offensive line showed its ugly head. They had played well all game long, given Tua time all game long until the last drive. In the last drive, they sucked. And it was like, oh, this is where they were. They were hiding all game. I think he knows the game of football. Ever since last year, I've been saying this, and I'm not changing that opinion. Nothing he's doing or they're doing is changing it. I don't think he was ready to be a head coach. It's weird, but if you look at track record, we're hearing that a lot in the world, falsely. But with him, I think it fits. Like, the dude was a run game coordinator, which I don't even know what that is. Like, I don't think most teams have run game coordinators. So that was a job they made.
It seems like a relatively minor position that was given to like the coach's cousin because he had to have him on the staff.
Well, especially when Shanahan, again, is one of these offensive-minded guru genius dudes that you presume is handling the entire offense. So
I believe he's calling the plays, Shanahan, yes. Is he not? I mean, so you see him there, covering his mouth and everything.
He's always talking, way more than McDaniel talks now, even as a head coach. He was a run game coordinator, and the run game was good. Okay, fine. So he then was made the offensive coordinator, but again, he was made the offensive coordinator under Kyle Shanahan. So just like Joe Philbin, like, what does that actually mean? Nothing. And he only had that position for 1 year. So it was like, you're making a guy a head coach, like, and this is all hindsight, I get it, but it is what it is. You're making a guy a head coach who's not only the offensive coordinator under a guy that's not letting him do anything. It was only 1 year. So the more I watch him, it's like he doesn't look like a guy that's going to finish games. I think that's where we are now. Like, they don't finish the season and they don't finish games. That's been Mayo has been very loud about this, and he's not wrong. The last 2 years, they finished, and Perk is big on this too, finished the season horrendously. And this year, they never even got started. And that sort of is a microcosm of how games go. Like, even when they win games, they sort of fucking just trail off. Like, yeah, the Denver game, yeah, they put up 70. Every other game, like, it's you're holding your breath that they win, even when they win. And that, to me, is a sign of the coach. Like, they don't finish. They don't put their foot on.
That may be true, though, around the NFL. I mean, if you look at the results of yesterday's game.
I mean, look, the Ravens shouldn't have lost to the Browns. The Ravens finally were catching their steam. The Browns were a disaster. Jameis was made their third quarterback.
I didn't even know he was still in the league, Jameis Winston.
And he had a good day, and the Ravens
he was
defense
great.
really good.
But he threw a lot of balls that easily could have been picked off, and the usual Jameis performance. It happened that the Browns had their day, and wide receivers were making spectacular catches while well covered, almost like Velcro. And that's part of the thing. I mean, and that doesn't necessarily always relate back to the coach. I mean, there's an element of luck involved, but you have to be able to make your own luck. And it doesn't seem like McDaniel, who seemed to have that kind of charm early on, but that star has faded. That it seems, the league, they always talk about this. They eventually make adjustments and catch up. While the Wildcat was good for a little while, do you ever see anybody run Wildcat? Once in a blue moon, somebody will run a Wildcat play. Other than that, it's become obsolete because everybody knows how to defend it now. So that happens in the NFL. I don't know that the league is caught up with Mike McDaniel's philosophies, but we're not seeing those spectacular games out of not just Waddle and Hill, but they used to do it together, right? You look at the stats. Hey, look at that. Hill had 173 yards, 3 touchdowns. Waddle 152 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the Dolphins romped today, and what a ball game it was. Join us next week. We'll be hosting the Indianapolis Colts. But that doesn't happen anymore. So, I mean, and this was a huge offensive output, actually, by the Dolphins compared to what they've been doing all year. They've been averaging like 13 points a game for the first 6 games. Anyway, I tell you what, one observation that can't go unnoticed, though, watching the other team, and sometimes the other team does some things and they just win the game. That's possible, too. I mean, your natural tendency for some reason in these kind of post-game analyses is whatever city your team is in, and you think that they fucking blew it and the other team did nothing. But Marvin Harrison Jr., my God.
That second half, he woke up.
My God.
They had no answer for him at all.
How good is this guy? There was talk that, he might even, I don't know that he ever was catapulted into a position, because you're always going to take quarterbacks first, of being the number 1 overall pick. But wow, I mean, and to demonstrate this kind of ability on the road in your first season, your rookie season, he only had 3 catches, I think, in the game last week. So they couldn't find him with a search warrant, even though 2 spectacular full-out dives to make catches that appeared to be impossible. And then an assortment of other catches that were all sensational and something that you would expect to see out of a 5-6 year veteran. Tremendous job yesterday by Marvin Harrison Jr. That was part of the difference in the game. It certainly catapulted the chances into a very high percentile of Arizona actually being alive in that game. Without him, I don't know. Did they win the game without Marvin Harrison? He made a couple of really, really big plays at huge times and huge moments in the game. Pretty good. All right, so that's the Dolphins. They're 2-5. Have they rendered themselves irrelevant at this point, Lubie? Is it over? You would have to think, as far as, dare I go, Jim Mora on this, playoffs.
Yeah, it's on.
That looks very suspect, does it not?
This was their easy.
Oh, they play the Bills this week on the road. Wow.
Yeah, this was their easy. That's the thing. This was the section 1. If they can get through, they play the Titans, the Colts, the Cardinals. Yeah, they're, I guess, 0-3 versus those teams.
Not a good sign. All right, University of Miami. We've been wondering all season long if the University of Miami is for real. Are they worthy of being I think they moved up to number 5 in the country now after beating the living snot out of Florida State. It was never really a contest, this game. An annihilation right from the beginning. Cam Ward, once again, not even having a big game statistically, still in time showed himself to be very much the Heisman Trophy. Is he the leader right now to win the Heisman Trophy?
No, I don't think he's. I don't know. We'll see.
You don't think he gets in? For some reason, I don't think he's going to get it either. But I'm not really. I never become overwhelmingly concerned with the Heisman Trophy. I guess it's interesting to talk about, but usually it's not given to the best player in college football because they only consider one position for the most part.
Yep.
If you're a quarterback, you have a 90-some-odd% chance of winning the award. Defensive players discounted completely.
Yeah.
You're never going to see an offensive lineman win the Heisman Trophy. No. Even though any coach would tell you that without Lefty over there at left tackle, we were fucked. You won't see that. You don't see defenders getting in, as we said. I mean, once in a blue moon it's happened. This Hunter kid would be my choice just because he plays every snap
He's every
and
down.
does it well for Colorado, which has now slipped its way into the top 25. But I'm pretty good at counting themselves in this one. Never threatened by Florida State. Florida State fans, did they show up for this game, Louie? Did you? I only watched a small portion of it, but
Watched the whole fucking thing. I guess they were FSU fans there. I have no idea. I don't know. The stadium was full. It was for a rare occasion, so I'm sure FSU fans had something to do with that. I don't. I look, the Canes won. They didn't have to show much. I guess Canes fans are saying that's a good thing. I think that's just them playing football. Like, I don't trust Cristobal at all.
yeah,
It's funny that Canes fans do. Be happy that this is your schedule, because if you had any other schedule in the ACC, you would have lost like 3 fucking games. Like, I don't have any faith in that team at all. They beat FSU and they beat a rival decisively, but FSU has no offense at all. Like, if FSU had any offense, I think FSU wins that game. I know Canes fans are excited and they've fooled themselves into believing whatever this team is because Cam Ward's the best quarterback they've had in 25 years. They're very lucky that this is their schedule, because the fact that they don't play the ACC is horrendous. It's the worst of the Big Four by like a lot, and there's 3 decent teams. I mean, I guess they're the 4th, but the 3 other good teams, they don't play any of them. Like, they don't play.
it's more a source of frustration for me at this point. I'm tired of that particular conversation. Well, they haven't played anybody, so how good are they? Well, we don't know. I remember, in the heyday of the Canes, they were taking on tough challenge. I know they had their share of cupcakes. They had their East Carolinas or whatever, FAMUs on the schedule, although they did get threatened that one year when they won the first national championship by the pesky Pirates of East Carolina. I still never forget being on the sidelines there as the game was ending. And what a sigh of relief by Howard Schnellenberger. We almost got caught with our pants down there. As East Carolina was going in for what would have been a season-crushing score, and the Canes managed to stave it off, then went on won a national championship that year, of course, with the classic Orange Bowl victory over Nebraska. But that being said,
look, no one looks great.
They used to be challenged all the time. It was fun. It was interesting to see them go beat Nebraska and Oklahoma on the road during the course of a season. Now, nothing.
The schedule sucked. But look, no one looks outside of now. Oregon is taking the mantle and Texas is sort of falling back. Like, no one looks great. So, like, they're undefeated. No one looks great. They're top 5-6 team. Like, that's where they belong. I've said that all year. I haven't fought that. They just don't scare me. And I get it. No one scares anyone. So maybe they fit right in with the rest of the country. Look, they're in an ACC that has Clemson and Pitt, and both teams right now look better than what I've seen from Miami. Now, again, Miami's been holding it back because they know their competition. Teams do that. Like, my own Florida State Seminoles did that a lot last year, and it worked against them. So maybe that's what Miami's doing. Is Mario Cristobal has become this amazing coach that knows just enough how to win, and he learned from not kneeling last year that now he's coaching just the right way to hide all the good and just win by the refs 3 games out of the last 4. And thank God FSU's offense is atrocious, so we can just settle for field goals like Mario Cristobal's dream. Like, I don't know. I just, when I've watched the other good teams, and no one's great, but they've all had moments where it's like, okay, they're playing a good team and they look better than that team. I haven't seen that from the Canes. So I don't know. I'm not saying they can't beat good teams. I'm just saying when I watch Clemson play, Miami, it feels like they're very happy they're not playing fucking Clemson until they would play an ACC championship game. When I watch even Pitt play right now, what Pitt just did to Syracuse, Miami hasn't done that to anyone of any consequence. Like,
did you have to remind me, Louis? That was one of my big picks last week.
My team,
getting 5 on a hook.
I picked them. I thought they'd win. I thought Cuse would win easy, and I'm not saying Pitt's a juggernaut or anything. Miami should beat Pitt if they faced, but I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't just give them the game. Like, it's Cam Ward. Their defense is average at best, and it's not supposed to be. It's just highly talented defense. Their defense is average. Our offense moved the ball. We just can't fucking score because Mike Norvell forgot how to coach fucking offense. But it wasn't like we couldn't move the ball. Like, our offensive line sucks, and our quarterbacks had a lot of time. Like, I don't. What I saw from Miami's defense, I was not impressed by, and their offense is high flying, scary offense. Our defense is Like, our defense is average. It doesn't get off the field on 3rd downs, yet you barely move the ball against us. So, like, even if that was designed, okay, well, you're better design something better because eventually you're going to play fucking Clemson. And Clemson's defense is fucking elite, and their offense now is scary. Like, it's hard for me to see them being the best team in the ACC, yet their playoff predictions 85%. Okay, maybe that's hate. Maybe I'm biased. I'm openly biased. But
well, if they only lose the one game in the ACC championship,
in the
they're
playoffs,
going to make the top 12. Yeah,
they'll be in the playoffs. Yeah, it's hard for me to fathom that playing Duke, who's solid, GT, who's tough, and Syracuse, forgetting that game where McCord just fell apart. 3 pick sixes is why that game got so out of hand.
Give away 21 points. It's
they're not going to stub a toe against one of those games. I'm curious to see them go totally wire to wire undefeated.
I'm with you. I sort of see it.
In there, and then I think Clemson beats them by 3 fucking scores. That's not bias. Like, I hate Clemson. I hate Dabo as much as Cristobal is a doofus. I hate Dabo. I think Dabo is a fucking asshole. To use religion to your
Dabo or Saban. Dabo or Saban.
Saban's worse just because of the Dolphin shit. Like, that really bothered me. And I understand.
We don't see enough of Dabo to despise him.
But I hate Dabo. Yeah. I hate him. But if you watch the way Clemson's playing, they look like a better team right now. I'm sorry to tell you, they just do.
Dabo looks like there's some inbreeding there too, doesn't he?
You said it. No.
Who was that guy? Mickey, whatever his name was, the defensive coordinator for the
Mickey Andrews.
Mickey Andrews, yeah. Mickey Andrews. He gave some indication that there might have been some inbreeding there in the deep south. Unbelievable. Look, good analysis, Lubie. I like that.
There's a lot of hate, and I understand.
They suck, and they haven't proven anything. Dolphins, you didn't even call for the head of anybody during that.
No, I've said that already. I think analysis. I pictured all you guys. I thought Chris Greer, once you didn't address the offensive line, and once you didn't bring in a backup.
Chris Greer, has to be beyond Twitch. Think about this. They put $300 million into offensive players and coaches. More than that, they put $600 million in. Okay, now listen, these numbers always look exorbitant because that's the way of the world right now in sports. So you're paying $50 million for some scrub backup point guard, on a 5-year deal in the NBA, and the guy only got $10 million, and he's a pauper. He can't even pick up a dinner check for the other guys who are making $50-60 million a year. Incredible money. But all right, so the money figures aren't necessarily part of an equation to how good you should be, but you should be better than this. Mm-hmm. Having just invested that kind of money, and then where did you go wrong, right? You're watching Dolphins, guys who have departed the Dolphins doing well elsewhere, which is going to happen. You can't keep everybody either, but he's got to be beyond twitching at this point. And McDaniel should certainly come into question, even though he says enough things that make you think, wow, I really wish this guy would stick around, but it's just not happening, right? This electrifying high-wire Nick Wallenda offense is pretty stagnant. And yesterday they had their best output, and like you said, on that day they can't get the team in sync, which on that day their defense falls apart in the fourth quarter and gives up a couple of scores to a team that looked like it was doing nothing the entire game. That was kind of the same MO as the Bears game. The Bears were doing nothing. They were getting shut out into the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Caleb Williams looked like a rookie in the game after showing some good signs over the previous few weeks. And the Commanders have been a hot team, although Jaden Daniels was operating with an injury that I would imagine was still at least somewhat inhibiting, right? You take a shot to the ribs like he did that keeps you out all week long, and hard to come back and look like a monster. But he ends up throwing. That was the second Hail Mary completed this year for a win.
Oh, really?
Well, no, not his. The Jets had one with Aaron Rodgers earlier this year. One of their 2 wins was on a miraculous pass at the end of the ballgame. All right, we're going to come back with more. Lots more to discuss here on the show. The World Series, 2-0 Dodgers. Would you bet on the Yankees right now to win 4 out of 5? I don't think the odds are large enough to entice me to do that.
Friday was literally what we said, and the Yankees almost had it. But they had to have it. Even Yankee fans are saying, it's not even how the game went. The way the pitching sets up, as bad as the Dodgers pitching is, the Yankees isn't better. They have a clear advantage in the aces right now. But then to lose that game, that fucked them. To lose the Friday.
My God. Man, the Friday game was a disaster. It brought out all of the anti-Booneites, and they weren't wrong. The one I respect the most of the anti-Boone faction, and I guess it's the anti-Boone nation. Everybody, most Yankee fans want to see Aaron Boone gone, right?
Yeah, I think
everybody agrees. Again, nice guy, seems like somebody you want to embrace. You'd love to see him succeed, but the bonehead moves just continue to, not just surface, but start grabbing headlines. So the Polyman points this out. He takes out Gleyber Torres, who's been hot for the Yankees, for a meaningless pinch runner late in the game. And what does that do? That puts Cabrera at second base. This guy has been a utility guy. He's moving around infield
In
positions.
the fucking World Series.
Okay, in the World Series late. And how do the Yankees end up setting up the game-winning dramatics? By Freddie Freeman, by butchering a play at second base, which may or may not have been on Cabrera, but nonetheless, he's in there instead of Torres, a much more experienced and seasoned second baseman. And that butchering job to put in a meaningless pinch runner, a managerial move that often gets overlooked.
Exactly.
And yet, that's why you're in that spot. Okay. And then you bring in Nestor Cortez, who hadn't pitched since like 2023.
Jesus.
He throws like 2 pitches and loses the game. Incredible. No, that was amazing. The only, I guess the other thing people were watching was, would Freddie Freeman make it all the way around the bases? Because I think that was a Robin Ventura situation, right? Where the guy hits the grand salami, only makes it around first base.
Yeah,
Crowd comes out on the field, and he never hits second base, and so they only counted for 1 run. And all of a sudden, the entire world had the over in that game. Which, how many people were betting baseball over-unders at that time, Libby? I mean, it had to be a relatively small number. Now everybody's on every aspect of every game. All right, we're going to come back with more in a moment. World Series, though, 2-0 Dodgers. Ohtani, shoulder injury, supposedly going to play tonight and work his way through it. On top of that, the pitching matchup, once again, you would think would favor the New York Yankees at home with Schmidt going, who's been okay, against Buehler, who had pitched. The easy joke is he looked more like Ferris Bueller than Walker Bueller. Now, every indication would be that this game would go over the total, no? What is the weather going to be in New York, Libby? I have it here somewhere for you. Sunny, 63 today. So, not bad. I mean, for fall weather.
Weather's been nice. Weather's been nice.
All right, so that shouldn't inhibit the flight of the ball, and you would imagine it's going to be a home run derby. I just read a very eloquently written piece about how you should bet the over, so I'm inclined because of the source of this, which is Action Sports, Sean Trippetti, who we've been sourcing all year long for go the other way contrarian picks, and he says over. He cites his stat again that I have no idea where the fuck they got this. I mean, I don't even think Bill James could have come up with a number like this. I'll have to seek it out here because it's buried in agate type. But wow, unbelievable! So many stats that they use now to quantify and base decisions on betting seem ridiculous, don't they? Because you can just go by the Cristobal factor in a Canes game and the Boone factor here and figure somehow they're going to find a way to fuck this up. But pivotal game 3. What do you think tonight, Louie? What do you think?
Well, I wanted to give one more parting shot about the Canes because I am biased FSU fan. Right now, outside of Oregon, no one looks great, right? I trust Georgia more than anyone outside of Oregon.
Are they getting on you, the Canes fans?
No. I don't want to come off I believe everything I'm saying. I really do. But there is bias in there too. And right now, if you're watching college football, look, Texas, Vandy's better. People are not giving Vandy credit. Vandy was 5-2 at the time and had beaten Alabama at Alabama. So to assume that Texas winning closely versus Vandy is this black mark, it's not true. Vandy's actually having a good year. Believe me, as an FSU fan, I would love to have the year that Vandy's having. But they did almost lose to Vandy, who's not great. Fine. The UM fits right in. UM's where they should be. They're a top, I would say 6. I would put them at 6. Top 6 team, and they are a playoff contender. I just feel versus the other playoff contenders, they'd lose. And again, there may be bias in that. I think they rely on Cam Ward way too much. Where every team needs their quarterback, I think their success rides solely on Cam Ward. And as we've seen, if your defense is smart and just plays decent coverage, Cam Ward's not this fucking high-flying, electrifying. They just haven't played any defenses, so it's really made their offense look a lot better than it is. So I'm curious to see them against some of the better teams and see if the Cam Ward show is enough to carry them to victory. But again, that's
unfortunately probably not going to get that.
To the playoffs.
You get a small example of it, maybe with this Duke and possibly Georgia Tech and the Qs.
Yeah.
But all right, so have you ever heard of this, Lubie? I've mentioned this before because this guy has cited this a couple of times. All right, so he says Los Angeles is pumped out, and he gives this slash line thing: 248 batting average, 340. What is that? Is that on base percentage? 451 slash. Is that slugging? No, that can't be. I have no idea what's involved in that. Tommy Edman, the shortstop, emerging as the club's leader in, here's your stat, Louis. Stat of the day. Weighted runs created plus, which is symbolized by a small W, capital RC, and a plus symbol. And what does this do, Louis? Do you have any idea? A metric that quantifies run creation with extended factors baked in. The fuck is that?
I have no idea. I don't know. Understand.
I mean, a lifelong baseball fan. I've loved baseball since my earliest memories. Right, 4 or 5 years old. I remember loving baseball, and I would have no idea what the fuck that was. Would you? Am I just losing it because I'm not smart
I don't
enough?
know. Look, I know that.
Who the fuck would cite that as something to base your opinion about making a bet on?
I'm sure other people who follow baseball know what that means. I don't know. What
Weighted runs create. You would have to be like the son of Boog Shambi to fucking understand that. Weighted runs created plus, a metric that quantifies run creation with external factors baked in. The fuck does that mean? Lubie, do some research on that. Yeah. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment while we try to figure out what the fuck we're talking about on a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday. Now that. The time. Canes, unproven, Dolphins suck. That's been the gist of the show.
That's where I am. Canes are a good team, not a great team just yet, and the Dolphins need a total overhaul.
Complete disaster. Wow, I mean, all that money. It's 8:37.
Here, let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Hear me, I am your new president. From this day on, the official language of San Marcos will be Swedish. Silence! In addition to that, all citizens will be required to change their underwear every half hour. Underwear will be worn on the outside so we can check. Furthermore, all children under 16 years old are now 16 years old.
What's the Spanish word for straitjacket?
Power has driven him mad.
Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Variety of opinions being expressed on the chat line here. We always appreciate your commentaries and the people who just check in to say hello. Jim Sarney, our good friend Jim Sarney, is speculating that the Yankees are in a great position to win the next 2 games.
Yeah, I know. They're not in a horrible position.
Nobody would discount that. I mean, it's possible. They were in both of these contests. I mean, the first game goes extra innings before they fuck it up completely, mostly due to Yankee fan opinions. The absolute ineptitude of one Aaron Boone in managing a game. You have a manager, I mean, just by its very title, you need somebody who's going to be an asset there. When a guy's always being second-guessed and criticized, and then when you look at the logic behind the second guess, it's not just some enraged fan that lost money on the game on FanDuel or whatever, and is ready. Sometimes it seems that way, right, Lubie? Over the years, people have accused you, well, you're just a fucking negative guy anyway. So that's why you see the Dolphins in such a unflattering light. But truth is, I mean, when you see it over and over and over again, after a while, it's not just some arbitrary result that you're examining. It's consistently bad, and we've seen that. I think if you listen to Yankee fans, not all of their gripes may necessarily be a scathing indictment against Aaron Boone, but a lot of them are.
Well, no, look, when teams
Much like you're seeing with McDaniel. I mean, a lot of these things we don't want to be overwhelmingly critical of the coach necessarily. He's not a buffoon by any stretch of the imagination, but is he clever enough to beat these hard-on NFL coaches that are very good at their job? Even though all of them, experience all kinds of bizarre challenges and make big mistakes also.
No, look, no one's perfect, and parity is all over the NFL. Again, the Ravens, playing as well as anyone in football, lose to a Browns team with their third quarterback, who was 2-5 at the 1-6 at the time. It's not like the line between good and bad right now is very thin.
NFL especially.
But my problem is this is 3 years now where games that they have and should win, all too often they find a way to lose. And Mayo said it yesterday when we were talking, and you've said this, and it's you talk about not wanting to do cliches, but there's one I truly believe, like, good teams find ways to win and bad teams find ways to lose. And the Dolphins and good coaches, that's where I'm still waiting for Cristobal, because Cristobal has literally made 3 games this year closer than they needed to be. And I feel like any other coach would not have struggled with VT the way they struggled, would not have struggled. And again, I know all the teams have struggled this year, but they've struggled more than anyone with average to bad teams.
They're very lucky not to have anywhere from 1 to 3 losses.
5 to Cal. Yes, I know Cal's played better since Florida State. Cal's not good. To get down by, look, you came back, resiliency, all the things. Georgia's not getting that. Look, Georgia, the only team they got down by was fucking Alabama, and then they stormed back and almost won. None of these teams have gotten down like that. To get down by 25, and the team they got down by was, again, even Alabama, who's lost twice, still a top 15 team. To get down by a team that's not ranked, never going to be ranked, by 25, says it all to me. And that's the thing. And Cristobal's fine, and he's not going anywhere. And the Canes will be a playoff contender to the end of the season, and that's all they've asked of him. McDaniel hasn't done the bare minimum. McDaniel's actually done the opposite. And that's for people that want to keep him. I don't get it. Like, do you see getting better? Like, that's what they're going to have to start shedding salaries. Like, this last year and this year were the 2 years, the way that they put money into the game. They already started losing guys, right? Everyone was mad they lost Wilkins.
The plan looks dead, doesn't it?
But that's it, right? Like, they don't have more money.
That's a bigger problem. That this plan that they had, which evolved into went different directions, right? First, it was the tank job.
Yes.
They were going to rebuild with young players and inexpensive players. And then as they started to mature after a year or 2 or maybe 3, sprinkle in some veterans then that you can sign through free agency and overpay for. Okay, maybe make some trades, whatever. But then they shucked that plan. And speaking of shucked, do have to pay homage, and maybe we can get a mention on this on the Mike Mayo Lunchbox show. But Shuckers, a fabled spot for journalists, is closed its doors. Shuckers was on the 79th Street Causeway.
Oh, geez.
So just down the street. I mean, you had to jump in the car because you had to go over a bridge or whatever. You could have walked there, I guess, from WIOD. Had its studios there, which included 3 radio stations. And Channel 7, of course, I believe is still located there. Channel 7's studios, which were pretty elaborate, as I remember. And they were joined together on the waterfront. You know what was great about that, Lubie? Like when there was a storm coming and it was still like 6 days away. You remember the reporter Brian Andrews?
Yeah.
I was witness to this, that they would put Brian Andrews out on the seawall outside of Channel 7, which was next door to WIOD. Separate buildings, though, and separated by a reasonable distance, but still, walk across the parking lot and you're, in one place or the other. And then they would take a giant fan and they would blow the water coming in off the bay, Biscayne Bay, and they would have Andrews in like one of those fish stick commercial rain outfits. And then there would be another guy firing fish at him.
No shit.
And then he would give his catastrophic report that, you better watch out. This is going to be the fucking big one. And you're watching this and go, oh, my God, this is like theater of a divine level. Unbelievable. But, yeah, we all used to go over to Shuckers. You would see a lot of the Channel 7 people there and vice versa, mingling with WIOD. And what was the other station they had? The Coast. I don't know. You remember The Coast?
I know Coast. It still exists. It's now.
I auditioned for The Coast. It was great.
You on the Coast? Oh, Jesus.
No, I never was on the Coast because the only thing you were allowed to say, the guy was one of these micromanagers, the program director, which was fairly I mean, it wasn't uncommon at the time in top 40 radio or contemporary, any kind of contemporary radio, and that the guy would just micromanage where every word was scripted. That the DJs, they had no freedom whatsoever to select songs or anything. Every word, and all the DJ had to say was, "You're in a coma. You're listening to the coast."
You're in a coma.
So I tried that, and then the guy looked at me like I was an asshole, of course, and sent me back to the AM and said, "Go ahead and talk to Sonny Hirsch like that." Sonny might have been in a coma. The last couple of years he was doing this shit. Unbelievable. All right. So anyway, yeah, we're all over the place here as usual. We started talking a little bit
They're
about
more
the
than
World
just
Series.
and I brought it back to them. I
I understand your obsession with it.
Well, that's the thing with Boone. Like, they remind me of each other. They're nice guys,
Yes,
younger
yeah.
guys. I don't question their knowledge of the sport overall. I just question, do they make the team better? In baseball, we understand a manager really doesn't do that fucking much. Okay, what do they do?
But it's subtle. I mean, some of these things, and you have to guess, right? Let's face it.
It's just guessing right. I mean, that's what fucking being a manager in baseball is. Football is a different game. Football, the coaches definitely matter. And the coaches can be the difference between winning and losing. And Mike McDaniel, a lot of the time, is not the difference. And Aaron Boone's the same thing. They do the thing where it's like, okay, all game long, he actually called good plays. That last drive, the line wasn't great, but I didn't like the play calls either. Like, you cannot put that defense back on the field. Whatever or you're putting them on the field, you better have a 5 to a 2-score lead, and you better have moved 4 or 5 minutes off the clock. You cannot have a 3 and out and put that defense that just allowed 2 easy scoring drives to go once you got the ball up to with, it was like 8 minutes or 7 minutes. Like, whatever the fuck you're doing, you have to, if not finish the game, because an 8-minute drive at that point is a little hard, but you have to use 4 or 5 minutes off that clock, and you have to get points. You have to. And after the way the offense played all day, why? And I don't blame the offense. They lost yesterday because of the defense. But fuck the defense, right? You now have the offense that's cooking, playing well all game long, outside of one stupid-ass snap, because the offensive line does suck. So, of course, they had to have one dumbass play. The offense played well all day. Finish the game right now. Let's finish. Let's do what we got to do so that when the defense goes back on the field, because they're going to go back on the field, at least they don't have their tail.
At least be up 5, yeah.
You don't have their tail. At least there's 3 minutes left, and an offense that sort of struggled most of the day outside this quarter. How has to go the whole field and get a touchdown? No,
never happens. Never happens.
And that's the problem. And that's Aaron Boone. Like, you had the game. The game was over. I wasn't watching it.
I mean, they're sitting there in a 2-2 tie, but and they go up 3-2. Those are subtle moves, though. And how do you put yourself? Honestly, when I don't follow the Yankees every move or all season long. I know Cortez was injured, and I don't even know if he was on the previous playoff roster. He hadn't pitched since August. When I heard that as he's coming in this critical spot,
what are you doing? Come on, man.
And people were critical that they walked Mookie Betts, and I saw, people get this stuff wrong. Was it not second and third when Cortez entered the game, and they put Betts on first base? That was a move you had to make.
Yeah, you do that. You want the force.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care if you're pitching to Freddie Freeman or you're pitching to Ohtani or you're pitching to Babe Ruth.
You need the force.
You need to set up a force at home plate. It gives you a much bigger advantage than having runners on second and third and pitching to Betts.
Or you can get a double play. Like you
right, and then you could have gotten out of the inning.
That's baseball strategy from the fucking aughts.
That was an automatic. I don't care who's coming up next. It could have been anybody. Yeah, and they could have been on fire. But
and it's Betts too. I mean, like,
yeah. But I was stunned when I heard them announcing, here comes Cortez out of the bullpen. He hasn't pitched since it might have been late July. And you thought, well, how did this guy end up putting himself in this position where this is the guy he's got coming in? I mean, it's one thing you want to try the guy. You're down 5-1 in the third inning, and so you bring the guy in to try and get you some innings, and hopefully he has it, and then maybe you trust him in another spot. But that seemed like an odd time to count on this guy, unless you were just absolutely cocksure that he had been looking like nothing but dynamite leading up to this. And if that was the case, you would have used him earlier, right?
Exactly. If he was so great, why hasn't he been in any games this whole run?
Nothing. Yeah, I mean, how do you bring this guy fucking ice cold at Dodger Stadium? I mean, you may as well just order a couple of Farmer John hot dogs and head for the car. Concession still open? Yeah, maybe we can get a dog on the way out. because the ball game was over.
Like I get they have bullpen issues, and I get it. Once you get to the World Series, guys are gassed, blah 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 blah. But that was game one. Like, and they had a week off.
It was a pivotal game one. Sure.
Like, you didn't play all week, and it was game one. And Cole was good. So, like, how gassed was your pen? Like, I didn't even watch the game, and I remember people bitching about it.
Oh, no, you could see it coming, man. You really could see that one coming. Because, the 3-2 lead, everybody's euphoric, and you're thinking, wow, if you're a Yankee fan anyway. I don't have a huge rooting interest. I have affinities for both teams in my lifetime. Both teams meant something to me, so, I wouldn't mind. Well, whatever the result is, I'm perfect. Unlike what's going to happen in the election, which I'm a little worried, Lubie. A little worried. I mean, does it seem like there's a tinge of momentum going the other way in spite of the
where do you
absolute...
watch?
I'm just watching people.
What people? They're leading every state now. Even Nevada, they're leading every early voting state. What do people watch? I'm glad I don't know.
I mean, I'm not seeing that in these polls that are being shown.
What poll? Even the polls now are. She's favored in every poll now. What are you guys watching?
Look, Lubie, you know my position. I don't see how this guy has a single supporter.
You understand? After yesterday, like, if anyone thinks he's going to win, they're lying. Like what they did yesterday.
Who was the guy with the statement about the Puerto Rican trash or whatever in the ocean?
He's supposedly a comedian, a radio host / comedian. It wasn't a bad PC. It was
Sid, our guy Sid Rosenberg, who I consider a friend. Although, I mean, the fact that he's flipped to the other side, he's making big money doing it. So, I know. I think his motivation is sincere. Also, he really believes this fucking guy is the answer. As a lot of people I know do.
Look, people can.
That's the hard part to accept. It really is.
There's nothing wrong being concerned. You want to be. I don't mind. I'd rather that. Like, that's why, even though everything's going their way, the Dems are still like, it's close. It's going to be so close. It's razor thin, because you'd rather urgency. So I've stopped fighting with people. I just think it's funny. I'm like.
You think it's a landslide, Kamala?
I don't know what. I'm not going to say anything.
I have trouble believing that. I really do.
I think
a black woman president.
But that's not what's running. That was the thing.
I understand she's running against a criminal, insane person.
That's it. They just had a Nazi. Look, they had speakers openly say this is a Nazi rally. Like, they didn't hide it. Like, New York is not in play. The election's a week away.
She's going to carry New York. And
why are you in New York?
No.
2, why are you doing a rally where you're not even being subtle about it?
Because it gets attention. Right? I mean, it's kind of like, remember in the day, if you were playing in Minnesota with the Timberwolves, you had no endorsement deals, right? Yeah. Now, if you're great anywhere, there's a good chance that you're going to be able to be marketable. No? I mean, the players used to always want to play in L.A. and New York for the simple reason that it enhanced their ability to market themselves and was a huge marketing tool. And now you know, I mean, maybe you don't know as much about Shea Gilgeous-Alexander as you should, but even he's been in a couple of commercials, right? Although he was one of those guys they had to super up his name, and is that not a sign that you're not as popular or recognizable as you should be when they have to mention your name? Some sports guy is doing an endorsement in a commercial.
Oh, they say who you are. Yeah.
Well, Matthew Stafford, what do you think about that?
You don't just know who they are.
Because the average guy would have no idea it was Matthew fucking Stafford, right?
100%.
Unless he was wearing his uniform number and with his name on the back. Anyway, no, I mean, look, it's frightening.
If you think you're going to win an election, you're doing what Harris is doing. You're going around the country to the swing states and you're running actual rallies. You're not having a Nazi-esque 1939.
They turned it like it was Billy Joel's farewell tour.
The lighting was red on purpose, and they let all the racism fly. Like,
oh no, it was crazy what people were saying.
He wins this election from his own people was him being sane and being down the middle and trying to win over votes. It's the thing that Mayo's even admitted, as much as Mayo and I have fought. What he's doing is not the playbook to win an election. His own people have said that. What he did yesterday was the kind of thing where you're like, fuck, I don't think we're going to win. I need to piss these people off. Like, that's, even when he got up, that's what was great. The Republicans later in the day, when they realized, oh, fuck, the Puerto Rican comment fucked us. Let's apologize now. He didn't. When he talked.
Oh, no, he believes that.
Didn't. Yeah. He leaned into all of it. So here's the deal. It's not
Remember
about.
when he's in Rico and he's throwing the paper towels like he was shooting free throws, as if he was doing these poor peasants a favor who just suffered, one of the most damaging weather events while he's denying any kind of global warming that had happened in the existence of time. And Yeah, I mean, it's hysterical when you look at it. But I do think he takes a dim view of anybody that's not him. Let's put it that way.
100%. And so
Yeah.
that's the thing is, but they used to be subtle about it. He used to just say it in rallies here and there. They now are just letting it fly. And anyone
A
politically
week to go, Lubie. Wow, a week to go.
that I've heard is like, yeah, that's not what you do when you're trying to win over. Like, remember, he lost an election. Like, people forget that. They go into 2016. He lost an election. So he needs to win people over. He's done the opposite. He's just trying to keep his people, which won't win him an election. Like, the Harris people are literally, they had 400,000 people canvassing Pennsylvania alone.
Oh, they're working their ass off.
2 million doors over the week. Like, these are things that matter as much as Democrats are scared because they don't want to actually use logic anymore because we lost 2016. Logic does matter in elections. Watch every election since 2016. Not the polls. The logic was right, but it's fine. I'd rather you be scared, be urgent, because that's how we vote. But if you use your sense, what they did yesterday was not what you do when you think you're trying to win an election. It's what you do when in 2020 you stormed the Capitol and that didn't work. It's trying to take it to the next level.
Think about that. I mean, the images of the people climbing the walls of the Capitol building, which I'll never forget. It stuck with me. Much like 9/11 when you first saw the images, or Hurricane Andrew when you first saw the aerial shot of Homestead, and you're thinking, "My God, is that really happening? You have to be kidding me!" And there's old Donnie Boy, and he's sitting back there eating little hot dogs in a blanket there, going, "Hey, anybody got the hot mustard? No, I thought we had some hot house mustard here." And doing nothing about it. The minute he sent out the tweet that, "Hey, okay, enough of this," boom, it stopped. That's pretty incredible. I mean, that would be enough of a scathing indictment for me. 140 people injured, cops dying, or like that was what 140 cops were injured in that thing. Lubie,
Yes,
January
that's
6th.
what they said. Yeah.
Not enough is made of that. I mean, all of this other stuff. They've forgotten about the felony convictions. That seems to be irrelevant. So we'll see. All right. I hope you're right, Lubie. Let's put it that way.
I mean, this isn't a me thing. Like, I'm not a political analyst. Everyone comes to me and fights with me. Like, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm just watching people who are willing to just watch numbers and not worry about the fact that they're still doing polls is weird. We've had voting for 2 weeks. Like,
the polls, the shifting.
Why do them? Even if I've seen ones that actually are good for Harris. I don't care about fuck polls. We have voting going on. Who cares about polls? Well,
yeah. Why don't people ask people? I'm sure some people would be willing to
exit polls.
Concede who they voted for. Somebody asked me as I'm exiting the polling booth there, or the ballot. After casting my ballot, I'm more than happy to tell them, right, as I would be before, right. So we'll see, but that would be key there, Lubie. You're right. All right, what did we do? We didn't do much in terms of anything of any great relevance here. We did not solve the problems of the world, as is sometimes a stated goal of some talk shows. And I don't know that we really gave you any kind of valuable insight into what's wrong with the Miami Dolphins, except that they're not very good record-wise. Tua comes back. That was I suppose good to see. Everybody was elated when he slid on that one run that he made. He seemed to be okay, right? Was he not in full command of his capacities? It wasn't like his decision making that you would have put in question. Maybe the coaches.
He looked fine.
They seemed to be sharp. He was releasing the ball as quickly as possible. You know what I love too? I love the announcers now just do like a 3-hour blowjob on the quarterbacks. Have you noticed that? Like everything they do is sensational. I'm watching Kyler Murray get crushed, and I think it was Mark Schlereth was doing the game, who what was prominent on ESPN for a while, and now has surfaced as an analyst on like the Z Team on Fox, because you had to think that was the lowest assigned group, right? That was doing that ball game, Arizona versus Miami, two shitty teams.
Yeah. When they do, was it Dusty? No, was that the Noel game?
Dusty Rhodes and Mark Schlereth.
Doesn't know, but it was Mark Schlereth and some other dude.
Yeah,
I didn't even know Mark Schlereth was still.
I didn't know he was still announcing. I always found him to be okay. I don't know why it was so objectionable about him. People didn't really care for him, but I don't know. I thought he was all right. He was always very nice. He was a willing suspect there whenever you need an interview on Radio Row. Remember, Lubie? You would just, hey, Mark, you got a minute? Oh, yeah, sure.
That's the funny thing is, until I heard his political leanings, I didn't mind him as an analyst. As bad as analysts are, he's not horrible, actually.
No, he's all right. Yeah. But it's like a 4-hour blowjob, 3-hour blowjob the entire time. Oh, this Kyler Murray. Can you believe the instincts there? I'm saying, wait a minute. He almost got butchered. He threw a pop-up where they should have invoked the infield fly rule. Marvin Harrison Jr. makes a brilliant catch. And you're going to tell me that was all about the quarterback? You got to be kidding me, man. He's lucky he's still on the field. All right, we got to get out of here. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow. And later on today, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 1 o'clock right here on South Florida Live. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:01.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my